Okay, gang. So we're going to get back to the battlefield, okay? And the battlefield that we're fighting is the war against Western civilization. And what we're going to do today is just further increase our readiness for Chanukah. Chanukah is a serious battle. It's a battle that we all fight every year. It's going on spiritually mostly, the Chanukah battle. It's not I'm not expecting you, Ayala, to pick up a spear and start chasing down, Greek people or Hellenized Israelis, Greek Israelis, but we do nevertheless have to fight a battle. It's an internal battle. It's a very powerful battle that's fought in your heart. But it's a battle that maybe we could use the line of King David that says, Ohavei Hashem sinu ra. Those who love Hashem should hate evil with a consummate hatred. If you have a neutral relationship with evil, like a very Western, PC, neutral relationship to evil, it's not that you love God. You don't love God. You can't say you love God and have a neutral relationship with evil. If you love God, you have to have a consummate hatred for evil. Now, of course, hatred's never a good attribute. If hatred's for people, it actually blocks your spiritual achievements. If you're trying to rise spiritually and you have hatred for human beings, you're automatically locked out of the higher levels of growth. However, hatred for evil, whoa, you gotta go crazy with that. You gotta have like an insane white fire hatred for evil. You can be the most polite person in the world. I mean, some people have hatred for evil, and when they see someone driving on Shabbos, they scream a blood-curdling scream at the cars driving by. And I tell those guys, some of them are my neighbors, I tell them, I'm more angry than you. They say, you're more angry than me? I don't see you screaming. I said, what do you think? I'm paying with my money. I'm hosting for Shabbos people who would be driving for Shabbos. Yeah, I'm hosting them. I'm filling my house with them. And my hatred for evil's just as intense as yours, if not more intense. Just I've learned how to translate it or transfer it, transmutate it to love. So when I say hatred, I don't necessarily mean that this like white fire hatred against evil. It has to be the kind of hatred that would ever reflect into human beings. You have to love human beings and be compassionate, be understanding of them, and be giving to them, and those kinds of things. Is your hand up, or are you just scratching your head there? Okay.
It seems kind of, I don't know if ironic's the right word though, that God hates evil so much, but like he lets so much of it go on.
Lets it go on. He created it. Doesn't let it go on. He makes it. He's the manufacturer of evil.
So how do you reconcile that?
He's light. Were you here yesterday? You were here yesterday.
Yeah,
he's light. To create a physical world, he had to create dark. And our job in life is to repudiate the dark and to cleave to the light.
For us to reject it?
Yeah. You can't have a physical world without it. You wouldn't even be here right now to have the choice if there wasn't for evil. This is evil. It's not evil. It's just dark. Because I don't see God in it. I see wood. So it's not evil, but it is proverbially evil because I don't see the light, so therefore it's covered up light, which makes it automatically dark, which makes it evil. Now there's levels of evil. There's a neutral level. This is neutral darkness. I can use it for Torah. I can lean on it. I can put books on it. I can teach Torah off of it. Also, I could, I could burn it for idolatry and offer up some lamb to an idol. And then it goes into the depth of evil. It goes into the totally forbidden. So right now it's totally permitted. That's why the word for permitted is mutar, which means released. It can be used now. A slice of pizza is released. It's mutar. It's released. You can now raise it from dark to light with the right blessings. Throw a piece of pepperoni on that pizza, you've been busted. Yeah? Now it's gone to darkness because it's mixing milk and meat in a hot situation because pizza's usually served hot. So now you got trouble. trouble in River City. And that's evil. So it's not as simple as you said, as God created evil for us to choose not. It's not just that. God created evil so we'd have somewhere to be. It's just there's levels of evil. There's neutral stuff like physicality. And then, for example, if that was a stolen necklace, that would be evil. But I imagine you paid for it.
Somebody did.
So it's dark side being raised up. Because you're raising it by wearing it in Jerusalem and wearing it for your own, whatever you wear it for. And it's being brought to good. So it's going up higher, it's going into light. And yet it still remains. So it's kind of cool that way. However, if it were a stolen necklace, it would be evil. It would be an evil piece of jewelry. Yeah. Even though it's the same piece of jewelry, it's forbidden. It's like stealing an orange. You can eat it, eat a stolen orange, and now all the vitamin C and all the other nutrients in that orange are powering your body from an evil source. Same orange, hand the guy a shekel, you got light. And that orange now has become a Jew and is fueling a Jew's mitzvahs of the day. How am I doing, Shoshana? Am I clear? You understand where I'm at?
Yeah.
Did I answer you? Okay. Yeah? Okay, now, God created us to go for the good and avoid the evil, and not only to avoid the evil, but to hate it. We have to hate the evil. And the whole point of God creating the world was that we'd go for the light, and therefore what would God hate the most?
Absence of light.
Yeah, absence of light. Well, us going for the absence of light. Meaning, when you have kids, there's stuff you want them to do that you'd love. There's stuff that they could do that you'd hate. So too, we're God's kids, so to speak. Human beings are God's kids. And he created a world of neutral and dark. And there's stuff he loves us to do, and there's stuff he hates if we would do it.
From our perspective, he hates it.
From his perspective, he created the whole place. He created the place for this purpose. Like you design something to work a certain way, and everyone seems to go against it. You hate that. When they go for it, you get nachas. When they go against it, you hate it.
That would imply imperfection in God.
Him hating something? No one. No imperfection. Just because he hates something doesn't mean there's an imperfection.
It means he's lacking not having it or having it.
What's it?
The thing that he's seeking, which causes hatred. So he doesn't want us to seek the darkness, and if we do, that's a lack in something that he...
He gave us free will. He gave us free will, and we get to make choices. He doesn't have a lack just because we go for evil. All he has is
But it's a lack in contentment.
There's no hatred, by the way, for us. If you're the one doing the evil thing, God loves you just as much as you do the good thing. I could even argue that he loves you even more when you do the bad thing. You want to know why? It's when you do. When you do the bad thing, now you suddenly are like you're the underdog now. You're in trouble. You're dipping into evil, which means your soul's getting pushed away. You're getting a scar tissue around your heart. So now God has to focus extra attention and bring you back. Whereas someone who's always being good, it's like the good kid in the class gets ignored. So God sends extra love and energy towards someone who's falling. God loves the fallen person. It says over and over again in the Torah, the widow, the orphan, the downtrodden, those are the ones that God hears the most.
Yeah, but his love is not necessarily viewed as good through your eyes.
That's true.
I mean,
I like it. Yeah, sometimes you're getting potched and it's hard to experience the love, but you're being loved, still being loved. And when someone does evil, God is extra attentive. Sometimes he might give you a little patula here and there and try to get you back in shape. I'll come back to that in a second. Josiah has a point.
I have two questions. First of all, it's interesting how we're saying how you should drive out evil, hatred, because hatred seems inherently evil, and it seems we're trying to drive out darkness with darkness rather than trying to drive it out with light. That's one. And do you want to answer that, or should I go to the second one?
Yeah, you definitely want to you want to turn darkness to light, but there's certain darkness you can't turn to light. There's a whole exact list, 365 things that you can't turn to light. That's the stuff you must push away. Push away with hatred. You have to hate evil. You have to hate that stuff. Why? What's the opposite of love? Hate. You want to get rid of hate, you've got to get rid of love. Certain polarities, dark and light, love and hate, hot and cold, there's certain things just built in the system. These are polarities, they're built in. So if you want to have love, you're going to have hate. You can't have love and not have hate. So you just got to make sure your hate's for the right stuff and not for people.
Okay. I don't really understand still why we try to drive away darkness with more darkness, because evil is darkness, hatred.
We only drive away darkness with light by raising it up if it's neutral. But if it's in the list of the 365, then it's out of your jurisdiction. You can't raise it. And it's ego and chutzpah to think we can. Believe me, I met plenty who think they can, by the way. I've had people who are like, I'm like, the two of you should really be married. And he's like, no, we're raising this up on our own, man. Like, you guys can't raise this up on your own. You're going directly against mitzvahs here. Directly against the Torah. Like, you're going to raise up the sparks without first having been in a chuppah. And the only thing, it's going to feel like you're raising it, but you are in a, basically enjoying a ride in a bucket that's going to hell. Sorry, I was quoting a Grateful Dead song.
Okay.
You know that Grateful Dead song? I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell in a bucket, but at least I'm enjoying the ride. But I get these like hippie types who are like, oh man, we're raising it up, man. It's the highest, the highest. Just like, you're breaking all the laws of the Torah right now, Like, it's really nice. You think it's high, but this is like, you're tripping out. You've lost it. That's got point 2?
Yeah.
Unless that's on the heels of that.
Kind of.
Wait, one sec. And I'm still on, oh my gosh, Mayor? What's his name? Saul. I'm still on Saul's question. Yeah, go ahead.
There's some things, though, that just don't apply to everyone. Like, some people just aren't ready to get married or shouldn't get married.
I know. It's very tough, our generation, because you have these adult singles. No one wants to be alone. And the Torah is not really offering you much help, because in the Torah community, obviously you could probably speed up meeting your soulmate. You could expedite it, being around people who all they seem to talk about is marriage, and everyone seems married. It certainly quickens here. It gets faster here, hopefully. But yeah, it's very tough. I went through it too.
Some people aren't in an emotionally
Stable
emotional
space
to be committed to somebody else.
I know. They should. The way I put it is like this: for all those people, is that they have to. Any day that went by, I'll say it in the negative, then I'll say it in the positive. Any day that went by where they didn't better themselves towards marriage, yeah, they'll have to answer for it. Let me put it in the positive. One who's single in adulthood has to spend every day in some kind of projects that are bringing him or her closer to being ready. But to just push it off and get all like, oh, poor me, and I'm single, and no, you got to figure out what areas are lacking and have a list of things you do daily to get yourself there. And that's your being married, by the way. You can be married well before you're married. You can do all the mitzvah of marriage before marriage. How? By doing the things it's going to take to get married each day. You don't have to do them all in one day, but every day you're doing something towards that mitzvah. But what happened is we get feelings of despair. People get into their 30s, they can feel despair, like, how's this going to ever happen? I've had so many hopeful moments, and I'm having trouble catching my hope back. And so when you get in that despair mode, you don't do anything about it, and that's the worst. You got to keep doing. Even a little bit every day, doing a little something that gets you more in position. And the goal is to completely make your singlehood obsolete. Meaning there's a certain growth you get when you're single, and then it gets to a point where the only growth you're going to get is married. And since we're put in this earth to grow, the Vilna Gaon says you are only put in this world to grow. So the goal is to get done everything you can till you're done being single. If you're still single, if it's because you're not done. Some other things you got to get done while you're still single. Meaning, if you married someone, they'd be dragged into something they weren't supposed to be dragged into. And so you got to get that worked out so that when they come in to your life, it's clean. You're burning clean fuel at that point. Anyway, but my heart goes out to single people, and bless all of them to be finding their soulmates soon. I know it's a horrible thing to be single in a very observant community, because it's like you can't go to one more Shabbos table after a while. You want to go to your Shabbos table. It's so hard to be a guest after a while. It's very, very painful. And so definitely my heart goes out to that.
Is evil a lack of godliness, or is it just as godly as goodness?
It's just as godly. Very good question. Just as godly. However, it is where God is the most concealed. Now, how can you say that?
Not any more absolute, just concealed.
Concealed, right. So you got it. I don't have to explain it. Yeah, it's the most concealed. And so because, again, we were put in the earth, we'll go back to you now, Saul, because we were put in the earth to connect to God, to go towards light, not away from it. So therefore, for us to go to where light's concealed, for us to go the opposite of why God made the world, would be doing exactly what God hates. But it doesn't create any lack in God. God is absolutely one. Evil and good to God are one. It's just that, meaning because there only is God and God is absolutely one. So therefore, everything's one. Everything's one. There can't be two. There can only be one. However, God's infinite light that he's somehow filtered out of the world so that you can have a stender and a chair and a table and a floor. That filtering out of light goes from the neutral dark stuff to the totally dark stuff. And God hates that stuff. We are supposed to hate that stuff. And again, that's why it says in Psalms, which is how we started this whole thing, is that the lovers of God, Ohavei Hashem, the lovers of God, Sinu Ra, hate evil with a consummate white fire hatred. You have to hate evil. And the reason why I think it's important for us, especially in this generation, is it's not considered very open-minded and liberal to be a hater of evil. And that's why I'm trying to temper it with love, that you can be the most loving person. You can actually open up your Shabbos table to people because you hate evil so badly that you want your Shabbos table to be packed with people who normally wouldn't keep Shabbos. You want to be there for people. Now, there is a level of hatred that you're allowed for people as well, and it will not block you spiritually, because there's a couple mitzvahs of hatred. One of those mitzvahs, I'll just bring up one, is if a person turns other Jews toward evil, if they're a bad influence, you must hate that person. So there's a mitzvah from the Torah. It's one of the 613 mitzvahs, a positive commandment to hate those who turn others to idolatry. So anyone who's actually an influential, charismatic type who pushes people away from the light and towards the darkness with their whatever crazy ego trip they're on, that they want to somehow rip people out of the light. So you're allowed to hate that person. You're not allowed to save him either. You're not allowed to kill him. But if he's stuck in a pit, you're not allowed to pull him out. If he's yelling, "Get me out of here!" and you look inside and you see, "Hey, there's the guy bringing everyone to idolatry." You don't have to throw him a rope. In fact, you don't throw him a rope. You don't kill him with your hands, but you don't save him either. And you don't stop hating him, at least until he does teshuvah. Okay? Another commandment is to hate someone who goes against the Torah. Okay? What do I mean goes against the Torah? Have you ever met anyone who went against the Torah?
Yeah.
You have? I've only met, from 23 years, I only met probably one person went against the Torah. you realize that the mitzvah of hating someone who went against the Torah means that they know it. They know what they're doing. They know what's right. They know it all. They know there's God. They have to be clear there's God. They have to be clear the Torah is divine. They have to know all this stuff. They have to have more clarity than any of us in this room. And when they got all that clarity, and then they said, you know what, God, to hell with you, and went and did evil. Or they denied some commandment as not applicable. I don't mean not applicable because we don't have a Torah temple. I mean not applicable like, this one's out. And they just decide that mitzvah's out for them. You have to hate them. However, I've only met one person in all those years. He's a guy, he wears a shtreimel and drives on Shabbos.
That's weird.
He drives in a shtreimel on Shabbos.
How do you know he really believes to the extent that he has to?
Because he's considered one of the top Kabbalistic scholars. He's like a huge mind, and he was once a very devout guy. He just was a little bit on the huge Yetzer Hara or something. Not a normal situation. I had him over for lunch. No one would let him come for lunch, but he was visiting Jerusalem, and they came to me and said, maybe you could have him, because you could handle him. And I went and asked my Rabbi, what do I do? And he'd come in for a simcha. Someone had to have him for the lunch. So my Rabbi said I could have him. Just keep it light. Don't let him start.
Why does he wear a shtreimel?
Shabbos, how can you not? He believes in all of it. That's what makes him evil. He believes in all of it.
If he doesn't care about it.
Yeah. He cares about it. He loves Shabbos.
He likes how he looks in it.
How are you allowed to invite him if you were supposed to hate him?
It was a strange situation that I can't tell more details or else the identities would come out. Because his children are very much halachic Jews. And if I told more, it would be too much. But if you understood the whole story, you'd see why. Someone had to host him, and I won. But I wasn't so happy about it. And I was told by my Rebbe that I have to host him, so it's like, I mean, I slipped a little like extra salt into his food and stuff, just to fulfill the mitzvah of hating him. Kidding. Anyway, back to fighting the good fight against evil. So anyway, we got to get that clear. Now, what you'll find throughout Hanukkah, every meal you go to and everywhere you hear someone talking, they're going to always put Western society as the evil you're supposed to hate and Jewish society as the good. So we have to somehow get over this hurdle here. How are we going to make the West, Western civilization? I mean, it sounds like Hamas or who are those other people, ISIS, or, we have to make Western civ. Think about it. You're hearing this in English because we're all raised there. The only way you'd understand what I'm saying is because you were raised in the West. So here you are raised in Western civ. You have basically about 26 hours to figure out how the West is the evil we're supposed to hate. And it's pretty strange because, what are we supposed to hate ourselves? I mean, how Western am I? My goodness. I'm way more Western than, on the one hand, internally I'm totally not Western, but if you hear the accent of my voice and the sports I'm doing and my daily carrying on, and I got the West pretty wired, Here's my Western phone ringing away. You don't see any Hasidic Jews making smartphones, So, yeah, but the Westerners consume them. Okay, so how are we supposed to get over this hurdle? So let's spend the rest of the day on that. The rest of the hour on that.
We could just look at all the evil that the West has done to Jews.
Excellent.
That's not exclusive to America or to Western. I mean,
Well, you got all of Europe's west, Russia's west, all the way through the USSR. They've really harmed the Jews in major ways, probably more spiritually than physically. You know, they've definitely taken down many a Jew. Yeah.
I was going to say how you can see objectively how excess physicality, it brings a block to reach spirituality.
Okay, very good. They definitely are pushing physicality. They're pushing, pleasing your senses as much as possible. They're pushing comfort, whereas real spirituality is not going to come from comfort. It's going to come from discipline. You know, if you want real spirituality, you're going to have to be a disciplined person. There's no freebies in spirituality. It only comes from discipline. And so Westerners certainly have pushed comfort. You know, they believe the opposite of pleasure is what? Pain. You know, they've pushed that idea into our heads so that we say it knee-jerk reaction. Like, you ask any group, what's the opposite of pain? Everyone will say pleasure. What's the opposite of pleasure? Everyone will say pain. And they just fall right into it when, in fact, your greatest pleasure only comes from the things you put the most work into. Your pleasure is where you put pain into. Whatever you put more work into is where you get your greatest pleasure. Yet Westerners have trained us, brainwashed us, into believing that comfort's where it's at. And avoiding pain. And it's a ripoff. Okay, what else? How else can we bridge this gap? How about historically? Someone give me a little history. What happened with Israel and Western civilization? Who were the founders of Western civilization? The Greeks. Okay, the Greeks don't want no freaks. And we were like freaks. I mean, think about it. You're a normal person walking around being all into this world, and you got these Jews who are all into spirituality. They're all into the next world. When I say the next world, I don't mean when you die. Okay, that's like some death cult. I'm talking about they're into the next world, meaning the next world's already here, just minus here. Meaning we're into the spiritual world that's underneath all of it. And they couldn't stand that. We were freaks to them. Why are we believing in things you can't see? To this day, you'll meet people at a high school and at a college. You're like, sorry, I don't believe in things I can't see. Sorry, Rabbi. Yeah, that's the way people talk. They're Greeks, Hellenized Jews, or Greeks themselves, or just Westerners. So perhaps the best way to bridge this whole thing is to see how the Greeks are just into physicality and how that eventually becomes dark. So I know many of you students who have seen this before, what I'm about to do. I know it may be redundant for many of you, but please God, we'll just review it, and everyone who hasn't seen what I'm about to do will get it for the first time. Okay? So let me see which black works better here. That one's very good. Okay, so you're looking at Hebrew letters. So in Hebrew letters, you'll see that the top of the line represents the spiritual, and the bottom of the line represents the physical. Okay? So different letters are going to have different relationships to things. So if you look at the word for Greece in Hebrew, which is Yavan, it's spelled like this: a yud, a vav, and a nun. Okay? Yud, vav, nun, which spells the word Yavan. Okay? Yud, vav, nun spells the word Yavan. And the word Yavan is just amazing because you see its form. Everything's formed by the Greeks. It's venerating the form of things. That's what the Greeks are into. So you have this point, you have a line, and then you have a big line. The yud is considered like a point. What is that point? That point's related to the spiritual. In this particular case, what it means is the idea. A yud represents the idea. The Kabbalah teaches us the yud relates to the word Chachma. It's floating, totally disconnected from physicality. And that's why in Kabbalah the Yud is called Chachma, wisdom. The Yud is an idea. So if you want to build a house, you want to plant a garden, you want to build a business, you want to get dressed, you want to go to figure out what to do that day. Those are all going to happen in the world of ideas. The letter Vav is a Yud. You can see it's, the Yud would end there, but the Vav keeps going all the way down to physicality. The Vav is an implementer. Vavs implement ideas. You can look at it really as a business strategy. You can have a Yud person and a Vav person. Yud people are idea people, Vav people are implementers. There happen to be two other types of people in a business, though, that you got to keep in mind, but then I'd have to go into God's name, because the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey creates a full business structure. But we're not going to go there right now. We're just talking about the Yud, which is the idea guy, and the Vav's an implementer. Okay? He executes the idea. And then it hits the physical, and now you got it done. So now you built the house, or you got the ice cream you wanted, or you got the job you went out for, or you got dressed, or you understand, or you went and fulfilled your plans of the day. Whereas the Yud was just thinking about all that stuff. Clear? Okay. Now, someone tell me, what is that Nun doing underneath the baseline? What's that Nun doing? What's down there? What's that Nun doing down there? Who wants to take a stab at that?
Indulgence in physicality.
Okay, indulgence, maybe, very good. But what is that area? If this is the physical, so what's below it?
The hiddenness of God's presence.
Okay, hiddenness, God's presence. Excellent, excellent.
Going into a bad place.
Okay, very good. Bad, what's another word for bad?
Evil.
Evil is going into the dark side, into the evil side, which we spoke about. This is neutral. This is fine. Okay? I use it as an altar now for idols. Now it's not fine. It's gone to the dark side. Right now it's fine. Okay? We can use this building for Torah, or we can use this building for slave trade. I don't know. You can use it for the good and teach Torah, or we can have, who knows what's going on down there in the basement. So everything has the potential for the final Nun. You get that? Everything can fall all the way down into the darkness. Someone had an idea to build atomic energy. Let's power whole cities just by splitting an atom. We don't need to worry about resources anymore. Don't need oil, don't need coal, don't need rivers to be full. You can just power the place on the splitting of an atom. Not bad. Good idea. Yeah, great idea. Were they able to implement that? Sure, and they even were able to implement it, but what happened? Next thing you know, they're putting it on bombs. Hey, let's put one of those atom splitters on the bomb and see if we can wipe out whole cities and get more power. Yeah, that's the Nun, that's the final Nun. That Nun, that final Nun there, that long line represents the word nofel, to fall into the dark side. And it says, Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'kam, that a tzaddik does fall too. And everyone falls, but this represents the fall. Now, why? Why would anyone fall? I mean, there is an inertia. You see, there's an inertia there. Like I had an idea, I figured out how to get it, and it's bad. And we've all had desires for forbidden things. We've also figured out how to get them. And we wound up in the dark side because we wanted the wrong stuff. Okay? So it's somewhat normal to fall into the evil side. And this is the word for the Greeks. This is a preparation for Chanukah. This is the word for Greece. The word Greece in Hebrew, you know the word in Greece? It's Yavan. Yavan. Okay, it's spelled Yavan. Okay, Yavan. That is the word for Greece. So it's amazing that that's the word they got. Are they good at ideas, guys? Were the Greeks, did they have good ideas? Big ideas?
Yeah.
Whoa, no one, in one section, no one touched those guys when it comes to ideas. Amazing. To the point where this day and age, where most of their philosophies are considered ludicrous, you still have to study them to go through university. Is it still prerequisite? You have to study a little Greek philosophy? Anyone been to university in the last?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to study it? If you're a philosophy major, you definitely have to study it.
If you're a philosophy major, you got a problem.
Elementary school.
Can you imagine refusing to study it? What?
elementary school, most people learn it.
Oh, really? Whatever, you know their ideas that were powerful. Now, anyone here been to Greece?
I have,
Been to Athens?
yeah.
Yeah? How are they at implementing ideas?
Terrific.
Nothing like it. There's really been very little like it. Maybe in the last couple hundred years there's been something like it, but before that, nothing like it. There's been nothing before that was like that, and nothing after was like until modern age, Industrial Revolution. Now we have stuff that's like that. These guys were incredible. Incredible implementers. They had that vav wired. Oh, but what happens next? There's inertia. And where does it go? It goes right into the dark side. That's where the Greeks went into the dark side. They had all the desires in the world and all the ways to get what they wanted. And they could go get those desires. And they had a whole polytheistic culture to appease whatever god they might have needed to make them feel better about their behavior, about them getting those desires. They had a whole system set up to like somehow go for the dark side and stick and swim in it. But what happened? When a culture drops into the dark side, when a culture loses their moral compass, they don't know where to go anymore in goodness and righteousness, what happens is God pulls the plug on that civilization. Anytime you see throughout history that a civilization lost its way, God pulls the plug. So they tend to kind of hit a zenith and then they tend to wane. And that's exactly what happened with the Greeks. A couple wars with Rome and it was over. And the Romans took the torch. And they didn't do much better. The Romans were even worse. They had all the Greek values plus like really heavy-duty violence. That's where the gladiators came in. What?
Did they ever have a moral compass?
Who's they?
Well, it's not like the Greeks were this.
Like they had it and they lost it?
Yeah,
They never had it. They never had it.
So it's not like God destroyed them when they lost their moral compass because they never had it.
Yeah, but still, I think God does give an ability to build a civilization, but to sustain it, it requires goodness, I think. Maybe that's an excellent question. Maybe you're throwing the whole thing out. You know what I mean? Could be you're throwing the whole theory out. Because certainly you'll notice throughout history that they do lose it. But then again, can we think of cultures? Chinese culture has a very little moral compass. I mean, you got to like check your kids' toys. That, they're not going to like choke on it, with the asbestos dolls, and they don't care. They just don't care. I guess that's the way they keep their population control, is just really dangerous stuff. And but they've been around for a long time, thousands of years. Maybe we'll throw that one out, I don't know. Simche, you're on.
Some of the other final letters that go down below the line.
Yeah, we have to look at each one. Yosef.
I'm thinking more like he reminded me of the words mitz.
Any word. Mitz is not modern. Mitz is ancient. But that's, the final tzaddik.
Yosef, yeah.
Yosef, the pei goes down.
Or
Yeah.
Kuf.
Final kuf, yeah. No, any kuf goes down.
Not Kuf, Kaf.
Kaf, the kaf goes down, but the kuf goes down.
Yeah. So,
Each one's got its reason.
but not the same as a nun?
Nun also is just the nun we're focusing on now. Each one has its reason. Yeah. Excellent point. Yeah, nun we're just focusing on because we're dealing with Greeks and we're trying to somehow bridge this by tomorrow night to be ready to fight a war against the Greeks. We're going to fight a war by tomorrow night, we light.
I don't think it'll be too hard. They're not that strong.
Who, the Greeks? I'm not talking about the Greek islands. I'm talking about Greek culture, Westernism. So, yeah, we don't have a lot of time. Now, what can you do to prevent the inertia in your own life? How can you prevent inertia? Because all of us in this room are going to have ideas. Some are going to be good ones. Some are going to be bad ones. All of us will have the wherewithal to achieve those ideas. And all of us will also have that inertia to do the wrong things with those same ideas. What do we need? How do we somehow survive all this? How are we going to make sure that our little noon over here, our big noon over here, somehow pulls his feet up from the dark side? He needs to I'm not going to jump, but he needs to jump and, kids jump and they swing their legs up, for the pictures, adults do it too. They want to look like they're really high up. Everyone jumps and pulls their legs up really high. How are we going to pull our legs up?
Stay connected to God.
What?
Stay connected to God.
Excellent, excellent. We got to attach ourselves to the creator of the universe. And to, how do you say, unattach? Detach ourselves from our little tentacles that have gotten into, habitual relationships with the dark side. We have to somehow uproot our foundations that have gotten caught up in the dark side, and we have to reach and stretch toward. So I'd like to show you something about the nun here that's really cool. What we're going to do is have this nun suddenly do some yoga. You ready to watch a nun do yoga? Okay, here comes the nun doing yoga. He's going to pull his legs up, and he's going to get it up and above. There he is. The nun's got his leg up now. This happened to me the other day. This is a nun. You know the letter nun? The regular letter nun? Simcha, you see that nun?
Yeah.
It's a regular nun. The only difference between that nun and this nun is this nun's pulled himself up and out of the dark side. And what did Chaim say, or was it Saul? I forget. We have to attach ourselves to God. Well, look at that nun's, look at this nun's hands here. Let me just give him a little face. Okay? Hands are up there, got his feet up and out of the dark side. Okay? Got his feet out of the dark side, hands in heaven. And that is how it's done. Because the word Yud Vav Nun, Yavan, is actually part of the word Tzion, which means Zion. Tzion is Zion. Okay? And for us to be true Zionists, we have to find our tzaddik. We have to find our tzaddik. What is the letter tzaddik? What is a tzaddik? Can someone define what a tzaddik is?
Righteous person.
Righteous and just, like the literal translation is righteous, justice, from the word tzodek or tzedek. But a person who's righteous isn't necessarily a tzaddik. I know a lot of righteous people. I wouldn't call them necessarily tzaddiks.
Someone who's transformed his evil inclination into good.
Okay, someone who's transformed his evil into good. That's definitely a good definition. And that really shows you how the tzaddik pulls his legs up. He's transformed his negative inclination to good. Yeah?
Connected to the spirituality, bringing it down to the physical and implementing it in the physical.
Excellent. So, plus getting himself out of evil. So he's got himself up and out of evil, and he's got himself connected to spirituality. And maybe I just add one more thing. He's not just connected to it, but he's drawing it down into physicality, which I think you like a lot, Ayala, is drawing down the light into the dark. And meaning a tzaddik wants to take a banana and turn it into a Jew. A tzaddik wants to take a chicken and just eat a little of that chicken. 'Cause who does that chicken become when the tzaddik eats it? The tzaddik becomes you. When you eat that chicken, it becomes you. So the tzaddik wants to take physicality and infuse it with light and raise it up. So it's not just a chicken, it's not just a banana, but it actually is a Jew. Okay, that's some stuff that tzaddik does. Tzaddik has his or her thoughts on God, no matter what's happening. Flat tire, lose a job, didn't get the job in the first place. No matter what's going on, whether it's good or seemingly bad, the tzaddik recognizes it's all good. That's why if something's going bad in your life, you want to go to a tzaddik. He'll explain why it's good.
That's why probably Joseph was called Yosef HaTzadik.
Yeah.
He was always focused on.
Always focus on the good.
On God.
He was always focused on God, but he was also always focused on the good. That guy went through hell. Every second he's getting thrown in a pit. Everything seems to go wrong with him, but he always seems great. He always rises up. Everything's like no problem. He comes out of jail like he should have been in there forever, and he winds up just kind of dusting himself off and becomes the head of Egypt, like overnight. His brothers show up, and they're like, don't kill us, because we sold you down to Egypt. And he's like, no. It was all from what? It was all from God. Like, we were supposed to come down to Egypt. And the way it worked out was by you, it was treacherous what you did to me. But it was all part of a greater plan. Everything, that's the tzaddik. The tzaddik knows everything's coming from up there. It's like when you, a very simple analogy is, you ever seen army thick ropes where they do upper body work? They climb up these thick ropes, in the army exercise things. So imagine you're walking by the ropes and you look and one of the ropes is somehow mysteriously spinning. Yeah? Which way are you going to look? You're going to look up. And you look up there and there's a friend of yours up at the top going, ah, because he's spinning the rope laughing. He's up on the top of the thing, he's spinning the rope. So the tzaddik always is looking at the top of the rope. You get that? Tzaddik's always looking at the top. And when you're always looking at the top, you can now sublimate or subjugate the physicality, the dark side, and raise it up. You can now have amazing ideas. You can implement those ideas, but you can actually keep them from falling into the dark side. And that's Israel. That's Israel. Israel's a tremendous implementer. Not just today, throughout history. When Israel had its temples and its commonwealths, we were tremendous implementers. They say that the second temple, for example, was one of the most beautiful architectural things in the world. It would have been one of the wonders of the world today, had it not been destroyed. It was supposed to be like the most breathtaking structure on the planet at its time, and would have been today had it not been destroyed. And so we're not against the Greeks. You understand? We're not against the Greeks. We're just against the dark side that it leads to. We also love music. We love ideas. We love taking care of the human body. We have a mitzvah to protect the human body. We love being in shape, and we love eating well, and eating right, and eating the right amounts. The Rambam wrote a whole book 1,000 years ago on principles of eating that today people who are more health conscious are only starting to catch on to, because it exactly reflects Chinese medicine and Chinese medicine diet. It's all Rambam. He got that from the Talmud. He just took it out of the Talmud. We're not against Greek culture. We're just against that being the end of it, that it's all about physicality, because when it's all about physicality and you take God out of it, you get the dark side. But when you take the holiness, the tzaddik, you bring the nun's legs up from the dark side, and you get the tzaddik. So then you get Zion, you get Zion. And that, as we said, is the numerical value, remember, of Joseph. Remember we spoke about that? Do you remember that? So the tzaddik is 90, Yud is 10, Vav is 6, and Nun is 50, which equals 156, which is the same numerical value as Yosef. There it is again. Okay. Yosef is 10 plus 6 plus 60 plus 80 equals 156. In other words, Zion and Joseph are the same numerical value. And you see that what was Joseph's job? He was the infrastructure of Egypt. He handled all of the resources of Egypt and distributed them. He was a very Yavan, Greek-oriented guy. Great ideas, great implementation. Yeah, great ideas, great implementation. See it? It's right there. Ideas, implementation. And the word Yosef means to increase. He can bring great bounty and great wealth to the world. He can supply in his 7 years of famine. That's Joseph. And you see that Zion has, this modern state of Israel, has had some 70 years of Greek, very Western building of the state, while the tzaddik was more or less left behind because it was left to the very religious to like go be fruitful and multiply and build yeshivas and stuff. The ultra-Orthodox community of Israel has been not in the best relationship with the state over these years, to say the least. But what happens in the end is the building of the state, which is very Western, and then you add the tzaddik to the building of the state, and then you get Sion, which is just like Joseph. He built infrastructure. That's how he's known in the Torah. But he's known as Yosef ha-tzaddik. He's known as Yosef the tzaddik because he was actually super holy. And so it's when the Greek aspect of Israel merges with the holiness of the tzaddik that we'll finally see Zion, the building of Zion. Soon in our days, Amen.